B-52 Stratofortress. The B-52 Stratofortress has been in continuous frontline service with the United States Air Force since 1955. No other combat aircraft has remained relevant across 7 decades of warfare, 2 fundamentally different strategic doctrines, and 5 generations of adversary air defense technology. A swept-wing heavy bomber with a wingspan of 185 feet. It is powered by 8 turbofan engines mounted in pairs beneath its wings. They carry it to altitudes above 50,000 feet, higher than any commercial airliner flies, at speeds approaching 650 miles per hour. Maximum payload is 70,000 pounds of mixed ordnance, equivalent to the combined weapons load of more than 30 World War II bombers, delivered across a range exceeding 8,000 miles without refueling. It is now being fitted with entirely new commercial turbofan engines under a program designed to keep it airborne until the 2050s. Meaning the airframe will have served for a full century. It has struck targets in Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, and participated in strikes against Iran in 2025. It remains part of the U.S. nuclear triad and carries the AGM-86 air-launched cruise missile as its primary nuclear delivery weapon. No aircraft in history has been more continuously modified, upgraded, and extended. An aircraft designed before the jet age, still flying into an era its designers never imagined. B-2 Spirit. Where the B-52 is large and audible from miles away, the B-2 Spirit is equally large and invisible to radar. Its flying wing design, no fuselage, no tail, a single continuous 172-foot wing, gives it a radar cross-section comparable to a small bird despite weighing over 160,000 pounds empty. It carries 40,000 pounds of precision munitions deep into defended airspace without electronic detection. Stealth is maintained through shape, materials, and radar-absorbent coatings that must be hand-applied after each mission in a climate-controlled hangar. Maintenance so intensive that the aircraft costs roughly $130,000 per flight hour to operate. 21 aircraft were built at an acquisition cost of approximately $2.1 billion each, making it the most expensive military aircraft ever constructed. The entire program cost more than $44 billion. B-2s flew non-stop from Missouri to Kosovo in 1999, destroying 33% of all targets struck in the first 8 weeks of the conflict, while flying less than 1% of total sorties. In 2025, 6 B-2s struck underground nuclear facilities in Iran with bunker-busting GBU-57 bombs, the largest B-2 combat operation in history. The one aircraft in history built to arrive anywhere on Earth with a strike no radar system can prepare for. C-5 Galaxy. Modern warfare demands cargo that no ordinary aircraft can carry: a main battle tank, 3 military helicopters stacked vertically, a complete field hospital with all its equipment. The C-5 Galaxy was built to carry combinations like that at once and to carry them intercontinentally. With a wingspan of 222 feet and a cargo bay 143 feet long, longer than the Wright brothers' entire first powered flight, the C-5 carries up to 270,000 pounds of cargo. Both the nose and tail open fully, allowing vehicles to drive straight through. An upper-deck passenger section carries up to 73 troops above the hold simultaneously, so the same aircraft delivers both the equipment and the people trained to use it. Its 4 TF-39 turbofan engines, each producing 43,000 pounds of thrust, give it a range exceeding 5,500 miles unrefueled at a cruising altitude of 35,000 feet. The backbone of U.S. strategic airlift since 1970, the C-5 has deployed M1 Abrams tanks to the Middle East, transported NASA Space Shuttle components between facilities, and delivered humanitarian aid after earthquakes, tsunamis, and conflicts on every inhabited continent. The aircraft that makes large-scale military deployment possible in days rather than months. C-17 Globemaster III. The C-5 Galaxy can carry nearly anything. The C-17 Globemaster III exists because someone looked at that and asked what the C-5 cannot do. The answer was land anywhere remotely close to where the battle actually is. At 170 feet of wingspan and a maximum payload of 170,900 pounds, the C-17 remains among the largest aircraft in the world. But its thrust-reversing engines allow it to back up under its own power, and its short-field landing system permits operations from unpaved strips as short as 3,000 feet, runways the C-5 cannot use. In August 2021, a single C-17 landed at Kabul's Hamid Karzai Airport and departed carrying 823 people, the largest human evacuation load ever carried in a single aircraft. The airframe absorbed that loading without structural incident. Since entering service in 1993, the C-17 has operated from gravel strips in Afghanistan, ice runways in Antarctica, and improvised forward areas carved out of jungle and desert across every major U.S. military operation of the past 30 years. Big enough to carry a main battle tank, nimble enough to land where the tank is needed most. CH-47 Chinook. A CH-47 Chinook, arriving overhead, is unmistakable. Two massive rotors turning in opposite directions at either end of a 99-foot fuselage, lifting 28,000 pounds of cargo or artillery without a single square foot of wing. The tandem rotor design solves a fundamental helicopter engineering problem. A single large rotor generates torque that requires a tail rotor to counteract, consuming power and limiting lifting capacity. The Chinook eliminates this entirely by using two counter-rotating rotors that cancel each other's torque, freeing every shaft horsepower for the task of lifting. The result is a helicopter that can sling a 155mm howitzer and its crew beneath it, or carry 33 fully equipped soldiers inside, while continuing to perform at altitudes above 10,000 feet where single-rotor aircraft lose significant lifting capability. The F-model variant currently in service produces 4,733 shaft horsepower per engine, a 60% increase over the original A model of 1962. In continuous U.S. Army service since 1962, the Chinook has served in Vietnam, the Gulf War, Iraq, Afghanistan, and continues as the primary heavy-lift helicopter in over 20 countries. It has outlasted every replacement program launched against it. 6 decades of continuous service, and still the most capable heavy-lift helicopter produced in the Western world. Mi-26 Halo. The Mi-26 is the largest production helicopter ever built. Its single 8-blade main rotor spans 105 feet, wider than the wingspan of a World War II B-17 Flying Fortress, and it is powered entirely by 2 turboshaft engines rather than the multiple rotors used by Western heavy-lift designs. Developed in the Soviet Union and first flying in 1977, the Mi-26 is driven by 2 Lotarev D-136 turboshaft engines, producing a combined 22,800 shaft horsepower. It lifts 44,000 pounds externally, more than double the Chinook's capacity, or carries 90 combat-ready troops in its pressurized hold. In 2002, a civilian Mi-26 was contracted to recover a U.S. Army MH-47E Chinook from a mountain in Afghanistan, after the machine was deemed too heavy for any American aircraft to retrieve. The Mi-26 lifted it without difficulty. Operated by the Russian military, Indian Air Force, and forces in over 20 countries, the Mi-26 delivers equipment to remote Arctic outposts, drops fire suppression material over wildfires, and moves outsized cargo to remote sites where no fixed-wing transport can land and no road exists. The machine that other machines call when nothing else can carry them. Convair B-36 Peacemaker. In 1941, the United States faced a specific and urgent problem. Britain might fall. American bombers needed to reach Europe from American soil and return without ever landing on foreign ground. The Convair B-36 Peacemaker was built as the answer, and it remains to this day the aircraft with the longest wingspan of any combat aircraft in history. Its wingspan of 230 feet combines 6 pusher piston engines facing backward with 4 jet engines added outboard on later variants, totaling 10, the most engines ever fitted to a mass-produced aircraft, earning the nickname 6 turning, 4 burning. It flew above 40,000 feet, beyond most early Soviet interceptors, across an unrefueled range of 10,000 miles, roughly the distance from New York to Tokyo and back. A crew of 15 flew missions lasting up to 40 hours. Its bomb bays could carry nuclear gravity weapons weighing over 40,000 pounds each, more than an entire World War II bomber could lift as total payload. It served as the primary U.S. nuclear deterrent from 1949 to 1959 before intercontinental ballistic missiles rendered the long-range strategic bomber less essential. 383 were built. Not one ever dropped a weapon in anger. Its job was to prevent the war that would have required it. Its existence was the entire strategy. B-21 Raider. The B-21 Raider exists because someone looked at the B-2 Spirit and asked which defenses it was not built to survive. The answer was the integrated air defense networks that Russia and China spent 3 decades constructing in direct response to the B-2's existence. First flown in November 2023. The B-21 is a next-generation stealth bomber whose full specifications remain classified. Its wingspan is estimated at around 140 feet. It incorporates low observable coatings and structural geometry specifically designed to defeat low-frequency radar, the type that could detect the B-2 under certain conditions. Unlike the B-2, it is designed to operate either crewed or entirely uncrewed, and its stealth coating is engineered to require significantly less hand maintenance between sorties, addressing the single most expensive operational flaw of the aircraft it replaces. The Air Force plans to acquire at least 100 aircraft, that is 5 times the entire B-2 fleet, designed for long-range precision strikes inside the most heavily defended airspace on Earth. The B-21 is built specifically for the environments that near-peer adversaries constructed to counter stealth penetration. The B-21 was built for the defenses the B-2 forced its adversaries to create. MQ-9 Reaper. Where every other aircraft on this list is measured in wingspan, payload tonnage, or ceiling altitude, the MQ-9 Reaper is measured in something entirely different: hours of unbroken surveillance over a single target without anyone on board. With a 66-foot wingspan and a single turboprop engine, the Reaper is the smallest aircraft on this list. But it carries 3,750 pounds of precision munitions, Hellfire missiles, and laser-guided bombs, and can remain airborne for up to 27 hours without refueling. Its operators sit in climate-controlled ground control stations thousands of miles from the target, simultaneously managing multiple sensor feeds, weapon systems, and communication links. A single ground crew can in theory manage more than 1 aircraft at a time. The physical distance between the person pressing the trigger and the target is measured in continents, deployed extensively over Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen by the U.S. Air Force and CIA. The Reaper reshaped counterterrorism operations by making persistent surveillance and precision strike possible without putting a single crew member inside a hostile country. It did not change only tactics, it changed the legal, ethical, and political frameworks through which states conduct targeted violence. The aircraft that lets an operator watch a target for days, then destroy it from a building in Nevada, RQ-4 Global Hawk. Persistent surveillance over denied airspace requires an aircraft that can remain on station for over 30 hours, above surface-to-air missile range, without a pilot who needs to eat, rest, or return to base. The RQ-4 Global Hawk was built for exactly that requirement, with a wingspan of 130 feet, comparable to a Boeing 737 airliner. The Global Hawk operates above 60,000 feet, above commercial air traffic and beyond the engagement envelope of most surface-to-air missile systems. Its sensor suite combines synthetic aperture radar, high-resolution electro-optical cameras, and infrared imagers capable of imaging large areas of terrain in a single sortie. It transmits data in real time via satellite to ground stations that can be located on a different continent. Its endurance is over 32 hours on a single fuel load, more than a full day and a half of continuous flight. Global Hawks have maintained continuous surveillance over Afghanistan, Iraq, and the Korean Peninsula, and have tracked maritime movement across wide stretches of the Pacific. A dedicated naval variant, the MQ-4C Triton, extends this capability over ocean areas too large and too remote for crewed aircraft to monitor consistently. A pilotless aircraft with the wingspan of a passenger jet, watching everything from an altitude where it cannot be seen, the Antonov and 124 Ruslan. The Antonov An-124 Ruslan holds the payload record among all production military transport aircraft. Its maximum payload is 330,000 pounds, equivalent to lifting 6 fully loaded articulated semi-trucks simultaneously at 35,000 feet across intercontinental distances. Built in the Soviet Union and entering service in 1986, the An-124 has a wingspan of 240 feet. Wider than any Western military transport ever produced. 4 turbofan engines give it a range exceeding 3,000 miles fully loaded. Its pressurized cargo hold is reinforced to carry crawler-tracked armored vehicles that would destroy an ordinary aircraft floor, and the hold is large enough to swallow a complete disassembled attack helicopter with rotors removed. Both the swing-up nose and the rear ramp opened simultaneously for drive-through loading. The AN 225 Maria, which shares the same design lineage, is technically larger but was a one-off civilian cargo aircraft. The AN 124 is the largest aircraft ever built for and regularly operated in a military role. The Russian Air Force operates it as its primary strategic heavy-lift aircraft. NATO countries have commercially chartered it to move military equipment too large for Western transports, producing the unusual reality of American and European military hardware traveling inside a Russian-designed airframe, the aircraft that NATO nations have chartered from their strategic adversary when nothing else was large enough. The final aircraft on this list was the most capable machine the United States ever built, and it was canceled before a single weapon was dropped. North American XB-70 Valkyrie. Two were built. One was destroyed in 1966 after a mid-air collision with an F-104 starfighter during a photo shoot. The pilot who caused the collision was Joe Walker, NASA's chief test pilot. The other sits in a museum in Dayton, Ohio. The North American XB-70 Valkyrie is the most extreme aircraft the United States ever attempted to field as a bomber, and it never entered service. Designed in the late 1950s to cruise at Mach 3 above 70,000 feet, 3 times the speed of sound, at an altitude no interceptor of the era could reliably reach, the XB-70 had a wingspan of 105 feet and a length of 186 feet. 6 General Electric engines produced a combined 168,000 pounds of thrust with afterburner. To maintain stability at Mach 3, its wingtips folded downward in flight, trapping the aircraft's own shockwave beneath the delta wing to generate lift. This technique is called compression lift. The XB-70 was the only aircraft ever to use it operationally. Its existence so alarmed the Soviet Union that it directly triggered the development of the MiG-25 Foxbat interceptor. The program was canceled in 1961 when surface-to-air missiles rendered high-altitude penetration strategies obsolete. The 2 prototypes flew as NASA supersonic research aircraft, logging data that shaped the B-1 bomber program, the American SST, and via espionage, the Soviet Tu-144 supersonic airliner. The final research flight occurred in February 1969. So advanced, it had no enemy, no mission, and no successor, canceled before it ever dropped a weapon. So, which war aircraft shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you liked this video, please hit subscribe.